Live Unrehearsed on CJAD 800. Brought to you by Marco Vendramini of IG Private Wealth Management. MarcoVendramini.com.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Life Unrehearsed. My name is Matt Delvecchio, specializing in life transitions, downsizing in the senior living industry.
And I'm Corey Sirota, clinical social worker and psychotherapist, specializing in grief and loss.
Coming right up on the first half of today's show, there are artists and there's Eric Waugh. We're going to hear from this talented artist as we discuss his dynamic life, his paintings, including his popular live paintings, and his canvas that made the Guinness Book of World Records. Corey, can't wait to hear from Eric.
Oh, me too.
I heard that you checked out the Royal Mount. I guess it's, I don't know what we call it, Royal Mount area, and you saw was it a Just for Laughs?
I did. You know what? I was so excited when I heard that they were doing these drive-in things, because I remember even as a kid, maybe I'm fully dating myself, but I remember as a kid drive-ins. So I had always wanted to do this. And then I see them advertising that the Just for Laughs was coming to the Royal Mount Drive-In. I have to say, it was a lot of fun.
Oh, good.
I went with my husband and my daughter. You can put 5 people in a car, and then we sat in massive screen, but it was a live performance. You know what? After 4 months of not doing really anything social, it was that in itself was just great to get out. Highly recommend it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And good for you for getting out there. You're right. We all need that.
That wasn't the only special thing that happened this week. However, I understand that Stephanie had a birthday.
Yes, my wife Stephanie, she had her birthday. We celebrated on the weekend. I'm supposed to say it's her 39th birthday again. You know, it's amazing how that works.
I was going to say 39 euros.
Yeah, 39 euros, that's right. Yeah, it won't be long before she's going to have to use the 49 again now. You know, Stephanie, je t'aime, mon amour, just teasing. And yeah, we had a great time with family on Saturday night. Outdoor barbecue, and good just to see some people. All right, what do we have coming up on the second half?
On the second half, Derek Fage was born with a birth defect that rendered him incontinent. He had to deal with these challenging and sometimes very actually embarrassing incidents his entire life. And to think about him as a professional, doing TV, radio, speaking engagements, imagine having that condition as well. Well, we're going to hear from him all about how he has navigated it, and he's navigated it quite beautifully. That we're going to hear after the 4:30 news.
Yeah, he's an amazing man, and can't wait to hear from Derek, who has really inspired literally thousands of people, for those that have had some medical conditions in their past or going through it. All right. So, Montrealer Eric Waugh is one of the most recognizable and collected artists throughout North America, selling more than 45,000 original works worldwide in the past 27 years. Self-taught in every artistic aspect, which is amazing. The tremendous quality and range of his work has escalated his popularity among art connoisseurs to the point where his paintings have been acquired by thousands of major corporate and private collectors worldwide, placing the prolific Eric Waugh at a level of distinguished prominence in today's international art market. Eric, welcome to Life Unrehearsed.
Corey and Matt, thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for coming on, Eric. Really appreciate it. You know, it was funny. I had on a Facebook feed Eric with Chantal Desjardins, who was with CJD's Andrea Elias doing a broadcast remote from Trevi, and she posted a couple guests that saw her, and sure enough, there you were with a painting for Chantal, and it was nice to see you there. Hey, there's Eric. He's going to be on our show tomorrow. So
yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and we're going to talk a lot about some of the charity work that you do as well. But let's back up a bit, Eric. Here, we're going to go way back. All right, at what age did you actually start painting?
Oh, way back. Well, it's funny because I didn't start painting until I was 23, like actually putting paint on a canvas. But I was always very artistic. At 16 years old, I pretty much started my own company, design company, creating various novelty products, stationery products, and selling these ideas to a company in Toronto. And then they eventually hired me to come and work for them and create designs for them. So I worked for them for a couple of years. I was like 19, 20, 21, 20. And it was a suggestion of my brother, Bruce. He was selling artwork in the Vancouver area for a company in Toronto, and he called me up one day and he said, "Eric, I know you're very artistic. I haven't seen you create any paintings." if you could create a painting and take it down to this gentleman, perhaps, he could sell one or two. So about 45,000 paintings later, that's how it all started. But I told my brother, I'm not a painter. That's not what I do. I'm a graphic artist. Rulers, pens, pencils, erasers, things like that. Computers. A little later on in the career. But I didn't think I was a painter. Always wanted to be, but didn't think I could.
Well,
in school, you're always taught. The word starving and the word artist go together, so that's not really a career that most people would want to continue with. Yeah.
So that's Eric Waugh. He is a well-known, sought-off Montreal painter, artist, really very, very talented individual. If you've seen any of his work, you would. It's stunning. So I want to know if you ever actually took any lessons.
Well, not really. The only sort of lessons that I had was the ones that everyone else had growing up in school, public school, in high school. I was up in my class, 100%, A+. But I never went to art school. I never went to, any, specialty art programs to learn to do this or learn to do that. When I first started painting when I was 23, and I knew that if I was to succeed and be different and be noticed, I had to be very, out of the box, very creative, something different than anyone else was doing. So what I did, I sort of went the opposite. Instead of being trained, I wanted to be sort of untrained. So I didn't go to libraries. I didn't go to galleries. I didn't go anywhere to be inspired. The only inspiration came from my mind, inspiration that has already been sort of like locked up in my mind. And the first types of paintings that I did were very abstract paintings, just very say loose, curved lines, nothing hard-edged, beautiful colors, nothing dark. And when I first started doing these paintings, they just gravitated to the walls. People just loved them, and I couldn't stop painting them at the beginning. I did, one or two and showed them to this gentleman in Toronto. And he said, not too good, not too bad. Come back and see me in a couple of weeks with a bigger collection. I brought a dozen paintings within about 2 weeks after that. And I got a call a couple of weeks later, said, congratulations, you're an artist. Come pick up your check. And that particular individual bought himself to sell to different galleries and corporations around the world. I only had one client for 17 years, and he bought 27,000 works of art from me.
That's a pretty good client.
Really,
not a bad client.
Not a bad client at all. Talking with Eric Waugh, one of the most sought-after artists, and a Montrealer as well. Very proud Montrealer, Eric. And texts are already coming in. And we have shout-out from Dr. Laurie Petito, CJAD's own Dr. Laurie.
Good friend, Dr. Laurie.
Who owns some of your works as well. I cannot believe, without even formally taking lessons or artwork, art lessons,
yep.
Eric. And we've mentioned this number of over 45,000 sold. Do you have an idea of actually how many you've painted?
Oh, you know what? I used to keep incredible records. When I was working with this particular, agent in Toronto, everything had to be, numbered and photographed. And after that, I left him to sort of pursue things on my own. And then I started working with Princess Cruises. My artwork was on, oh my goodness, I don't know, maybe about 60 ships traveling around the world. So I was traveling on the ships, doing these art shows on the ships, and my artwork was also going on there. I lost track. You say 45,000. I think that's enough. I know in the Guinness Book of World Records at one point, Pablo Picasso had the record for the most amount of artwork created. Now, it wasn't just paintings, it was, bowls and sculptures and etchings and things like that. And I think he was up to 27,000. So I'm at 45,000.
Wow, there you go.
Something like that. But, It's not necessarily the number. I've been doing this for a long time. I started in oh my goodness, 1989. So I've been doing this for a while. At the beginning of my career, I was doing a lot of smaller works on paper, abstract works, which didn't take much time to do at all. Actually, the faster I went, I find the better the artwork was. There was a lot of energy and spontaneity, that was put into the work. So I couldn't go any slower. So when I first started painting, I was doing, my first year I sold over 500 works of art, and then the second 800. And then the third, by the fifth year, I'm up to 1,700 paintings a year that I'm creating. But they're done in such a style and a technique where they're very quick, to do. Energy, spontaneity, a lot of life.
There's no question that I've seen that work, and we're going to talk about it, but we must go to a traffic update. But when we return, you're going to hear about the canvas that made it into the Guinness Book of World Records. That's coming up right after we hear from Mark Chalub in the Traffic Center.
Live Fun Rehearsed on CJAD 800. Brought to you by Marco Vendramini of IG Private Wealth Management. MarcoVendramini.com.
Welcome back to Life Unrehearsed. I'm Corey Sirota with my co-host Matt Del Vecchio, and we are talking to one of North America's most sought-after artists, Montrealer Eric Waugh. Right before we went out to traffic, Eric, I asked this really cool question because I still can't believe it. I can't wrap my head around this, that you actually are in the Guinness Book of World Records for this canvas. Please share with our listeners what it is I'm talking about.
Oh, my goodness. So this was a labor of love that I decided to create in 1995 to help out a summer camp for kids with HIV and AIDS, as well as the Starlight Children's Foundation here in Canada. So what it is a 41,400 square foot canvas. That is the size of a football field if people are trying to figure out how big it is. So it is the painting that I created initially for Camp Heartland, I created it into a poster, like a smaller painting, into a poster, fundraising poster to raise money so kids can go to the summer camp for kids with AIDS affected or infected by HIV/AIDS. So we raised about $40,000. I wanted to raise a lot more money than that, and I came up with this crazy idea to create the world's largest painting, which was a replica of that. So the painting is of an adult comforting a child in an abstract form. I started in 1995. It took me 6 years to create in my studio here in Montreal. And people are like, wow, you must have had a really big easel. But how it was done was actually made up of 5 foot by 5 foot square stretched canvas panels. And I created 1,656 of these paintings over a 6-year period. So it was basically like tiling a floor. Mm-hmm. So we took all these canvases. After 6 years, I packed them up in crates. We shipped them in 3 transport trucks down to Raleigh, North Carolina. And I had an assembly team of over 200 people put these together within about 2 hours. A representative from the Guinness Book, came in from England, and with the world's largest measuring tape, and he declared it the world's largest painting created by one artist.
Bravo.
And that was actually the first time. I was the one that actually created that category. There was no category at that point.
So unique in 2 ways.
Right, right.
Hey, if you want to get into the Guinness Book of World Records, create a category. Well, good for you, Eric. Can't imagine. 6 years, 1,656 panels. Congratulations. That's really all for a good cause. Now, you are also known, Eric, for these live paintings that you do. So explain that, please.
Yeah, well, this actually just came to be just shortly after I did the world's largest painting, and I was on, the Today Show and People magazine and a lot of different magazines and newspapers across the States, and it brought the attention to this one gentleman down in Atlanta who was working with another artist who was doing live paintings on stage to music, let's say in upscale jazz clubs, at a concert, things like that. Unfortunately, this particular artist that was working with them had a heart attack right after a live painting. And they were looking for someone else, basically, to, fill his shoes, more or less, or get into that spot. He was a really talented artist. He worked in oils. I do it in acrylics. So I basically said, give me a couple months, to work on this, to get my timing down, because a lot of these live paintings on stage, they have to be done within 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. So I really had to get my timing down. So I took a couple months off, and I practiced and I practiced and I practiced. When I was ready, I went down to Atlanta, went to a little place called Mama May's Louisiana Kitchen, and I did my first live painting, and that was probably in 2002. Since then, I've been on stage painting live to Tony Bennett, the Pointer Sisters, Donna Summer, Kool and the Gang, Foreigner, Supertramp, Van Halen, so many. Just last year, actually, in Montreal, Michel Pagliaro and Rock Voisine as well. That was a lot of fun.
So I was going to ask you have fun when you're doing it? You enjoy it, obviously. I can hear you talk about it.
Blast. Actually, what happens is I lose myself sort of in the moment. I forget that there's, 3,000, 5,000, 25,000 people behind me, watching. And I just pretend that I'm sort of in my studio. I get immersed in the music, and the lights, the fog machines, the whole bit. So I feel like I'm almost like part of the band. So I really, really get into it. A lot of these paintings I couldn't do in my studio. They would take an hour or hour and a half, but when you're on stage and all that energy is happening, you get them done in 15 minutes, 20 minutes. It's incredible what happens. It's almost like it sounds corny, but like an out-of-body experience that's going on at the time.
I'm sure you have to put yourself into that out-of-body experience. The pressure is intense. Yeah. And like you say, you just sort of go in your zone. Incredible. Talking with Montrealer Eric Waugh, and one of North America's most sought-after artists, and I think you could understand why now. Eric, we're already starting to run out of time. We'd be remiss in not talking about, we've talked about your 45,000 selling of paintings and so on. You do an incredible amount of work for charitable causes. In fact, I believe you've raised over $1 million throughout the years in various charitable causes. So we want to make mention of that because it's just not all about money and doing painting. And tell us a little bit more about some of these charitable causes.
Oh yeah, I was painting for several years until I started getting approached by some different charities asking for paintings to sell at different auctions, but I wasn't really part of it. I would sell I would give them the paintings and not come to the events. It wasn't until I learned about Camp Heartlands, the summer camp for kids with AIDS, in 1995. There was a CBS movie of the week. I was watching this movie. It's about this little girl who had AIDS, 10 years old, and I was just blown away by the camp and what they're doing for these kids. I got on a plane. I flew down. I spent a weekend at the camp, and I got inspired like you wouldn't believe. And after that, it's like... That's all I thought about. It was very consuming. I just wanted to give and give and give more. Things were, you're selling paintings, everything's great, you're making money, everything's fantastic, but there's something missing. There was something, I don't know what it was, a sort of disconnect, to the community or what have you. And it really wasn't until I started giving back to the community where I really felt that what I do and, being an artist, I'm really making a difference.
A difference to others.
A small difference, to an organization, or a bigger difference in someone's life.
Sure. Very fulfilling and gratifying, I'm sure. And Eric, we want to thank you very much for taking some time out of your schedule and being with us and sharing these a real inspiration, a Montrealer and worldwide known. So thank you for coming on Life Unrehearsed.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
All right, Eric. Thank you. All right, Corey, what do we have coming up next?
Coming up on Life Unrehearsed, imagine having to deal with incontinence right from the minute you're born. Derek Fage has, and he is determined and willing to be open about it and talk about the medical condition, and in fact, inspire so many people. We're going to hear about that after the 4:30 news.